What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got our Week 6 NFL game picks, outright versus the spread, along with our locks of the week, so make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And before looking at our breakdowns, I do want to highlight OddsJam once again because it continues to be the place that I use for all of my NFL betting research. And honestly, whether it's the NFL or any other sport as well, this is your one-stop shop for it all. You have access to live line shopping, betting research, and whether you're a beginner or an expert, you should be taking advantage of OddsJam's tools like their positive EV tool, which gives you line discrepancies so you're getting the best odds available, essentially giving you a mathematical edge and guaranteed money in the long run because you're finding bets on sale and getting them at great value. Or their arbitrage tool, which gives you an equal and opposite bets for a risk-free return. So again, make sure to check out OddsJam, link in the description. But with that being said, let's kick it off with the 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons. The 49ers coming off an easy win versus the Panthers like we predicted. The Falcons, closer game than expected versus the Tampa Bay Bucks, but ultimately lose. Probably some questionable officiating decisions there. Now, this is a home game for them. The 49ers are a bit banged up defensively. The Falcons could potentially get Kyle Pitts returning here, but if they do, I think he's going to be less than 100%. And while those things are in the favor of the Falcons, I still think that this is an opponent that the 49ers, even at less than 100%, are going to be able to beat. You know, I think this is a type of game where Jimmy Garoppolo can, again, get away with being a game manager and not have to do anything extraordinary. Jeff Wilson is going to do his thing running the football. Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, they can definitely take advantage of this defense, so that doesn't scare me. And honestly, Marcus Mariota, Drake London, and then a less than 100% Kyle Pitts, even with this banged-up defense, this 49ers defense is one of the best in the NFL. I think they can handle the Falcons' offense. Cordero Patterson, that X factor, he's hurt for them. So even though, again, the Falcons maybe in a bit of a better situation compared to last week, I'm taking the 49ers to win outright. The spread plus 4.5 for Atlanta, not that huge. I will take San Francisco there as well. Moving on, we've got the New England Patriots at the Cleveland Browns. The Browns favored at minus 2.5. They're banged up defensively. They're going to be missing some key pieces. For the New England Patriots, the main thing we have to keep an eye out for, Mac Jones. Is he going to play or not? He's questionable, so we're probably going to take it to kickoff until that decision is made. But honestly, whether it's Mac Jones or Zappy under center, I think it's a similar type of game plan for the New England Patriots. I honestly think that both these offenses are going to want to execute similar game plans, and that's going to be establish the run. The Patriots are probably going to be without Damian Harris, but Ramondre Stevenson can definitely handle that load. And then for the Browns, we know what it's been. It's been Nick Chubb, one of the most consistent running backs in the NFL so far. You've got Kareem Hunt, a great backup there. And then Jacoby Brissett distributing to Amari Cooper, to Donovan Peoples-Jones. But I just have my question marks about Jacoby Brissett going up against the New England Patriots defense, against Bill Belichick, and in a game that I think will ultimately be relatively close back and forth. Those are the time of games that the Cleveland Browns have been in. And I do think the Patriots are a little bit better than their record suggests. I think this is where you're going to see the Bill Belichick coaching X factor. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots to get the upset here. The spread not extremely high, so even if you do like the Cleveland Browns, I think going with the New England Patriots to kind of hedge your bets there makes sense. Then we go to the New York Jets at the Green Bay Packers. Honestly, I am shocked that the Packers lost in London versus the New York Giants, but I mean, that's the situation at hand. The New York Jets took care of business. I mean, it happened versus a very understaffed Miami offense, so keep that in mind. Here at Green Bay, I do think the Packers are going to bounce back. I do have them winning this game, but the spread, they're at minus 7.5, kind of a big number. This offense hasn't been blowing people out, and the defense has been underwhelming. I do think they're going to, thrive from being at Lambeau. That's something to think about, and coming off a bad loss as well. So you do have that potential for them just to blow out the New York Jets. But what we've seen from the Green Bay Packers so far this year, I think it makes sense to go with the New York Jets on the spread. Maybe tease that number up to, close to like plus 9.5 for the New York Jets. I still think you're going to get pretty good odds on that. And you go with the Jets that way because, again, I have a hard time imagining the Packers are going to be blowing out too many people. So give me the Green Bay Packers here to win outright, but the Jets on the spread. Then Jacksonville at the Indianapolis Colts. These two teams played once already, and the Jaguars decimated the Indianapolis Colts. This game, however, in Indy, the Jaguars coming off a bad loss versus the Texans. Are you kidding me? The Colts took care of business in a very bad game versus the Denver Broncos last week on Thursday. The offense just can't get it going. Honestly, this is one of those games that I have a tough time predicting who's going to win. The Colts are favored at 2.5. But I said it before, I'll say it again. I think this is one of those series that is going to be split. The Jaguars took the first one. I think the Colts can take the second one. I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair. I do think ultimately it's going to be decided by 2-3 points. That's why I actually think going with the Jaguars on the spread makes a lot of sense here. Tease that number to plus 3.5 in favor of Jacksonville, and then go with them here because honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they ultimately end up winning this game. The Colts' offense has been really bad. Jonathan Taylor, a game time decision that's going to impact this game as well. I mean, the Jaguars with James Robinson, with Etienne, with Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and the way Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's outplayed Matt Ryan. I think you have to give them the edge here offensively, so keep that in mind. I'll go with the Colts outright, but I do like the Jacksonville Jaguars on the spread. Then we go to the Minnesota Vikings at the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins down to their third-string quarterback, Tua not available, Teddy Bridgewater not available. Sure, they're going to have Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, but I think that's going to be way too much to overcome here. This Minnesota Vikings offense with Dalvin Cook, with Justin Jefferson, with Thielen, Kirk Cousins is head and shoulders above, your third-string quarterback option. I think the Minnesota Vikings defense can have a somewhat underrated good performance here, considering who they're going to be facing at the quarterback position. Miami only plus 3. I anticipate that number is going to change pretty heavily, so I'd be jumping on the Minnesota Vikings here. I think they ultimately win by close to double-digit points, so give me the Minnesota Vikings taking advantage of injured Miami Dolphins quarterback situation. I like them outright and on the spread. Then Cincinnati at the New Orleans Saints. Another game that I think could go either way. The New Orleans Saints at plus 2.5. Things that we should know here. Jameis Winston out again. Michael Thomas out again. So it's going to be a lot of Andy Dalton. Taysom Hill probably as well. And then Alvin Kamara. Those are going to be your top 3 options. This game is in New Orleans. That defense is stingy. The Cincinnati Bengals have been a team that has been underwhelming offensively. In general, that offensive line hasn't shown up. Joe Mixon not having as much success. Joe Burrow hasn't been able to get his weapons involved to the extent that he'd like. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Speaking of Higgins, he's questionable as well. Here, this is going to be a game that, again, I think either one of these teams can win. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're the better team. I mean, I guess you have the Andy Dalton versus the Bengals, revenge storyline, but it's not really one. Andy Dalton is past his prime. He's a backup with good reason. I think here, you've got the return to Louisiana for what it's worth with Burrow and Jamar Chase. I don't really put too much stock into that, but offensively, I do trust the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit more so. I think this is a type of game where you got 20-17 type of final score. If you do like the New Orleans Saints at home outright, I don't blame you. I think it just makes sense here to hedge your bets and go with the Bengals on the spread, which is what I'm going to do, considering that, again, I think it's a coin flip of a game. Then we go to the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. The Ravens are getting minus 5.5, so the Giants underdogs as you would expect. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens here, probably to nobody's surprise. I don't know how the New York Giants beat the Green Bay Packers. Packers not as good as you would anticipate, so Giants able to take advantage of that. Saquon Barkley is going to play in this game, but other than Barkley, I don't trust the pass catchers for the New York Giants. I continue to say that week in and week out. Daniel Jones, I don't think that he's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Lamar Jackson. Even though Rashad Bateman won't play in this game, again, you still got Mark Andrews, you've got Duvernay. I think that's going to be enough to get the win for the Baltimore Ravens. I will say going the New York Giants on the spread is kind of tempting. I could see this being a lower scoring type of affair, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens outright, but the Giants have played, these close games where they make a game out of it, and, they haven't been getting blown out one way or the other. So I do think at home here, look for that. I think it's a good value play, the Giants on the spread at +5.5. Then we go to the Tampa Bay Bucks at the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a much more straightforward game, as you can tell by the spread, which is +9.5 for Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh secondary defensively is absolutely decimated. We saw what the Buffalo Bills just did to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, again, the Tampa Bay Bucks offense isn't as high octane as that of the Buffalo Bills, but I think they're still going to have plenty of success. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Tom Brady, they're going to overwhelm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this can be another potential blowout. I don't think it's going to be by over 30 points, but I don't see how Kenny Pickett is going to be able to, keep up versus this Buccaneers defense. And just with the lack of experience that he has, sure, you've got some weapons in Deontay Johnson, Pickens, and Najee Harris. But again, these are negative game scripts, and they're going to take away Najee Harris, and they're going to force Kenny Pickett to beat them through the air. That's not going to happen. Give me the Buccaneers outright and on the spread, even in that huge number. Then Carolina at the LA Rams. Actually, the biggest spread on the week, -10 in favor of the LA Rams. I don't agree with that. I don't think this should be the biggest spread, but I will say I do like the LA Rams. The Panthers, they're in shambles. They're firing everyone left and right. Everybody is in discussion to potentially be traded, even though I think that's people getting ahead of themselves. Baker Mayfield not going to play. It's going to be PJ Walker. Honestly, I think that could potentially be a good thing. Baker Mayfield just hasn't looked great. And I think that can reinvigorate this Panthers offense. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think they can be a sneaky good play here on the spread at -10 when, the Rams are getting that. I think that the Rams haven't been blowing out anyone. I think this Panthers defense is kind of underrated. And the Rams have had their fair share of problems as well. Well, they've been one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL so far, considering they just won the Super Bowl. So keep that in mind. Cam Akers not going to play here. It shouldn't matter too much. Darrell Henderson is going to be able to do his thing. Cooper Kupp is going to do his thing. Higbee as well. I do think the Rams defense is going to also have some success. I'm obviously taking them to win outright, but on the spread, I think here the Panthers could surprise some people. I'm going to go with them on the spread. Then Arizona at Seattle. Again, NFC West divisional game. You throw the record out the window. This game is in Seattle for what it's worth. And Seattle out Rashad Penny for the season after his injury last week. That means officially it's going to be the Kenneth Walker show. But I think this is going to be a game that could potentially be one of the highest scoring affairs of the week. The Seattle Seahawks defense ain't scaring anyone. Opposing offenses have had a lot of success versus them. I think this is exactly what the doctor ordered for this Arizona Cardinals lackluster offense. But to be fair, they almost took the Eagles to overtime last week. They're going to be without James Conner, so it's going to be Eno Benjamin at the running back position. I think he's going to have success versus, again, the Seattle defense. I'm looking for the Marquise Brown to Kyler Murray selection here to a connection to have a lot of success as well. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals personally. Seattle's at +2.5. I think right now the Seattle Seahawks defense is such an issue that it gives me, confidence in the Arizona Cardinals winning. But considering how up and down the Cardinals have been, how many issues they've had scoring as well, I'm going to hedge my bets here. It's also one of these NFC West divisional games, like I mentioned before. So I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks on the spread. Then Buffalo at the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe the marquee game of the week. Kansas City at +2.5. Arguably two of the top teams in the NFL, two of the top offenses, two of the top quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. You look at which team I trust more, it has to be the Buffalo Bills because I think they're the more complete roster, especially defensively. You've got Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis back healthy. Josh Allen a little bit more of an X factor with what he can do on the ground. On the flip side, the Kansas City Chiefs pretty much have just Travis Kelce. They're not utilizing Juju Smith-Schuster like we thought they would. At this point in time, I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling has a claim to being the top wide receiver for this team, which has me a little bit worried here. Sure, this game is in Kansas City, but I think the Bills are the better equipped team here. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to get this upset, to win outright and then on the spread. Even if I was going Kansas City Chiefs on the money line, I'd be hedging my bets here with the Buffalo Bills. So for that reason, I'm just going to take them outright and on the spread. Then Cowboys at the Eagles, Sunday night divisional clash here. And, Cowboys, again, going to be without Dak Prescott. So we're going to get Rush for at least one more week. The Philadelphia Eagles at home, -6.5. I don't quite agree with that spread. Again, divisional clash. This Cowboys defense has been very stingy. You could argue this is one of the tougher tests the Eagles have faced. And I think here that you're going to see the Dallas Cowboys hang in there. With Rush under center, it's been these type of games where they're close, a little bit lower scoring, and that plays in favor of the Cowboys on the spread here. I'm going to take them on the spread. I think you're going to see like a potentially 20-17 type of game here. While the Philadelphia Eagles, I have them winning. Ultimately, I think Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback involved. I think he's got the better weapons offensively, and again, that X factor with what he can do on the ground. I think that puts the Philadelphia Eagles over the top here. Give me Philly outright, but -6.5 feels a little bit too big of a spread. I'll take Dallas there. And then finally, we've got the Denver Broncos at the LA Chargers. The Broncos, one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL, just can't get anything going offensively. Reports coming out that Russell Wilson is playing hurt, so maybe that has something to do with it. But to be fair, I think the LA Chargers are another one of these teams where they keep a lot of games closer than they should be. And with that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if the Denver Broncos have a chance late in this game to win it. That's why here the Chargers getting -4.5, that feels like a really big number. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos there. I know a lot of people are saying, Denver Broncos so disappointing, et cetera, but the Chargers haven't figured out how to shut out teams. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos to hang in there. I think it could be a game where it's a little bit lower scoring than people might expect. The Chargers tend to play up to the level of their competition, if you've noticed. Keenan Allen might or might not play. He's expected to potentially make his return, but even if he does, I question if he's going to be at 100%. So I think it's going to be a lot of the same with Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and Everett. But I do like this Chargers offense more than that of the Denver Broncos. So ultimately, I'm going to take them to win, especially this home game, but I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos on the spread. But with that, we wrap up our pick'ems. Now looking at our locks of the week. Well, let's start with the 49ers at the Falcons. Yes, the 49ers are banged up, but I think they can still get a victory versus this Atlanta Falcons team that's not scaring anyone. Jimmy Garoppolo, even being a game manager here, should be good enough with that great defense that they have to get this victory. Next, New York Jets at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers coming off a very bad loss versus the New York Giants, but now they're back at home. Coming off that bad loss, I think they're going to have, kind of retribution on their mind. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a big game along with A.J. Dillon, along with Aaron Rodgers and Lazard. I'm going to take them to win this game. Might not be a blowout, but I think they can get this victory. Then we scroll down to the Tampa Bay Bucks at the Pittsburgh Steelers. These are the more sure things here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, way out of their element, horrible game situation here. We saw it last week versus the Bills. I think it's going to be similar here. Give me the Tampa Bay Bucks to just outperform the Steelers in every facet of this game. I like the Bucks. And then finally, Carolina at the LA Rams. While I don't think that it's going to be as big of a blowout as the spread suggests, I'm taking the LA Rams at home. They are the better team than the Carolina Panthers, no question about that. And, I'm going to be picking a lot of teams versus the Panthers the way they are currently constructed. So that wraps up our locks. And as always, if you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin. Let us hear in the comments section. You have any questions, we will do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we will see you guys in future videos.